Oh, yes. Paleblood. Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. But first, you'll need a contract.
Welcome to Wide Flank.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wide Flank. This week, we played Bloodborne. Just kidding, we played it for a lot longer than that. But everyone was really active in the Gameclub chat this month, though glad we picked an all-time great. Danny and I had played this one before, but Alon hadn't. But I think we got a couple people replaying it, and Dave shared his old character models, so thanks for doing that. So yeah, I played this a lot this time around, and I think I played it like this is my fourth time. So we've played this game a lot, and we're gonna have a good discussion because Alon, would you say you love this game? It's the greatest game of all time, possibly.
Pretty close to the opposite of that for me.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I'm also here with Danny, what do you think, Danny? Greatest game of all time?
It's good. It's freaking good, that's for sure. Is it better than Doom 2016? That only time will tell.
That's the only question. So, well, we got a bunch of good questions for this episode. We're probably going to talk about some Soulsborne, like the entire series as a whole. But I think just a good place to start is I think the classic Bloodborne comes. Well, Danny, do you want to explain the game series? And we could.
Yeah, I was going to say we got to do the Danny Wikipedia paragraph or whatever.
Yeah.
Bloodborne. Right. Bloodborne is a 2015 action role-playing game developed by From Software and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. It's a PlayStation exclusive, and it is in the series. It's not a sequel, but it's in the Dark Souls, Soulsborne, From Software series, which is kind of a genre, kind of a game series, kind of a. I guess it's really become a genre. Soulsborne has become a genre of RPG games that sees the player in like a third person. Almost always like a third-person combat game, and it is a place. I think I already said it was a PlayStation exclusive, right? But it takes place in a like Gothic, Victorian, eldritch horror, Lovecraftian world. So
only very cool people will know what this game was about.
Yes, exactly. All these games are are very well known for having like a really immersive setting, but not for having a very clear or decisive story. So you fill in a lot of the gaps in the story yourself. There's a lot of kind of self-imagination, and you learn a lot from just item descriptions and little notes here and there, but it's not like these aren't really just you follow this plot and know all the characters and know exactly what's going on. There's this, especially with this game, there's this spookiness, this Lovecraftian aura surrounding the game.
Yeah, the game is not open world, but it does have like branching pathways. All these games do that. You sort of, I would say, the modern Metroidvania type game, where you are exploring. Basically, in 3D, you're exploring a world. Certain paths are blocked to you based on if you do have these abilities or keys. All right, Danny said it's a third-person game, and I would say the hallmark of a Soulsborne is. Does your currency, if you die, do you drop it? And if you die again, do you lose it? And I think if that is the characteristic of your game, people will call the Soulsborne, even if nothing else is the same.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I don't know if that's the best, like, most important thing about them, but I think, like, everyone will be like, oh, it's a Souls-like, if that's the case. And the first game was Demon Souls, then Dark Souls 2, and then we have Bloodborne. And Bloodborne was a departure from, I would say, the earlier games, which are very, very clunky, and the combat is like not fast, smooth. It just feels kind of bad to like move around. And Bloodborne was like where everyone said Miyazaki took the game forward and made it fast. So I kind of want to, maybe we could address that first, the combat in this game being fast. What do you guys think?
I was very surprised. I was very surprised that this was part of every single review of the game that I saw was super fast, super aggressive combat. And I found it to be very slow, very boring the whole way through. So I don't know when that happens. I'm 30 hours into the game, but maybe I just haven't unlocked it yet.
Did you kill Father Gascoigne yet?
Oh yeah, 20 hours ago.
Okay.
Well, it's a compared to Doom, this is not a fast game. Obviously, it is but if you've played those other games, it is like a totally different world. I mean, Sekiro is even faster, I think. But
Sekiro is the next game, or is there?
They came out with Dark Souls 3 after Bloodborne, and then I guess the next one was Sekiro. Must be.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's fast either. It is. I think we might have talked about this previously, but I think we described the combat as sort of fluid, and your character is very fluid. Like I feel like the cape is like liquid almost on your back and everything. But combat is like really about for most fights is like about a couple key moments. It's about setting those up. It's about, do you get your shot off to introduce like a parry at the right time? And do you attack if you've been attacked? And I would say like the combat's very precise in that way, but it's not fast, right? Like what you're saying, Danny. I think like Doom is the perfect example of like a fast, fluid game. But this game, like there are like big enemies where you're just like spacing the whole time, and you're just opening up for one solid shot to unlock a visceral attack to kill them in one hit. And I think that's like intense, and you're on your toes the whole time, and maybe fast in terms of like movement or spacing a little bit, but you're not like in really intense fights slashing the whole time. It's not like fast combat in that way. And yeah, I think in terms of the series, maybe it is, but yeah, it's just not. I just don't think the quite right way to describe it.
Yeah, there's a couple times like the Shadows of Yharnam, I think they're called, when you fight the 3 bosses at once, right? Like that felt fast. There are moments where even slow-paced combat feels fast, but I think it's less fast and more what you were saying, Teddy, which is intense, because it feels like you're like locked in, and you have to hit roll at that perfect time, and then like hit your attack at that perfect time. But it's still like, it's patience is really like the number one thing I think in this game. And like, I'm new to this whole series, so I just kept dying over and over again at the beginning, because I would just like go in and try and kill people, and then I would be like, my attacks don't work anymore. I can't roll anymore because there's a stamina bar, which is just basically a hard cap saying like, this can't be a fast game. Like, I will not let this be a fast game, because you literally can't do anything when you're out of stamina. So
right,
like,
I was going to say, importantly, that like you can't roll when you're out of stamina, and you can't even attack. So yeah, especially early game, you've got like 3 things, then you kind of have to reset.
Yeah, it's very much in out type of thing. And like, I mean, that was definitely like I described it as boring. Like the bosses for me pretty much all went the same way after Gascoigne, which was like my introduction to like fighting a hunter. But after him, it was like basically like get obliterated by a boss. The second time, like maybe beat it, probably not. take damage but deal some damage. And the third time, I almost always perfected it. I was like, oh, this is just like really stupid and easy. I just have to wait for that move, then go hit them, and then he's going to do the other move, and then I go hit them. And that's the part to me that felt boring. It was like, I want to be irresponsible. Like, I want to let loose. Like, it's part of the pleasure for me is like, of games, you know? It's like, I can fucking do crazy shit. And you're just not allowed. You're just not allowed. You can't just be like, no, this time I'm just going to keep hitting them, because then you just get one shot. And then you're just like, oh, and then you run out of stamina and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't do that.
So what do you, so you're saying like you want the combat to, I just feel like if it allowed you to be crazy, and what is like the perfect example of this? Doom allows you to be crazy because like it encourages healing or picking up resources based on being crazy, and therefore it tolerates mistakes.
Right. I mean, I wish I had better examples than Doom. I mean, even like Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you can like dash, go fucking wild in a boss fight, dodging, going in, playing as risky as you want. And you don't just get like insta death if you do that, right? Like you can play as crazy as you want to in that game. And if you're skilled enough, it's okay. But that doesn't really exist in this game. Like I watch even like speed runs and stuff, and they're very methodical in every fight. They're like, no, wait for this, then this will stagger them, then I get a visceral attack, then back off, then go in, you know, and it's like you can't even do it fast if you want to do it fast, which is again why I found it so surprising that everyone's like, this is a super fast, aggressive, like blah, blah, blah game. And maybe some of that's the regen or regain mechanic, I think is new, right, to this game from Dark Souls. So, you know, maybe people are speaking on that a bit.
Right. Yeah. So did we talk about that? Like,
I don't think so.
Yeah. So if you take damage in this game, your health bar goes down, but there's a segment of your health bar that that's where your health was. And if you attack people specifically such that the blood rains down on you, it doesn't actually matter, but you do get covered in their blood, and every attack heals an amount of health. And actually, I think if you hit more than one enemy, it heals you more. So it does encourage you, like, to A, if you get hit, it's okay because you can heal, and B, if you get hit, you actually should continue to attack.
Reaggress.
Basically, or to tolerate an attack so that you can keep going. And right, again, I wouldn't say that that's fast, right? I would say that's aggressive, or it's about pushing through disadvantage or something. And you're absolutely right that it's not. It is slow. Like I would say, you know, it is. The fights can be boring in that sense of methodical. I might say more like complimentary thing to say about the boss fights.
Tactical.
But it's about learning the patterns. It's about knowing when you can go in, when to stay out. And I think like you can obviously perfect every boss and not take any damage, and by doing it completely methodically. But you can also like play with that on the edges and like go in a little bit when you shouldn't, and do extra damage, or you'll pay the price. But still, it's like not, I wouldn't quite say it's fast.
Well, it's funny because I feel like one of the weaker RPG elements, or I guess better way to say it would be, the RPG aspect of the game feels a little underdeveloped, because even though there are a variety of weapons and a variety of stats that you can choose to level, the gameplay doesn't change that much between them. Every boss fight is about timing. It's about being methodical and patient. Fights with grunts who are high level is about being patient. It's about learning through failure. And like I just did my first playthrough I ever did was a skill playthrough, you know, almost all with a threaded cane. Then my second playthrough was blood tinge. And then my third playthrough was arcane. And there were subtle differences. And I had like where my power spikes throughout the game was different. Like an arcane and blood tinge is, once I got those weapons later, just absolutely destroyed. But I I don't like very few of the fights. It didn't feel like I was playing the game particularly differently. And so they have these mechanics in the game, like the regain system that force you to play the way they want you to play it, which I really enjoy the combat, but I have no illusions about it being it's not like, even though you can have Kirkhammer or Threaded Cane, it's not like play Bloodborne how you want to play Bloodborne,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you guys about that because after 10-ish hours, and I had already like put some points into attack, strength and stuff like that. I was wondering, and I did some Googling about like different builds, and everyone basically said that. They're like, no, all the weapons are basically the same, and you have to melee no matter what, and everything's basically the same, and never put points in this, and this because they don't do anything. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was definitely going to ask about that, but I did want to say also about the regain is that like, I love the regain mechanic, and I think in the first sort of, I don't know, level's the wrong word because everything's connected, but in Central Yarnum, like the main part of the city where you start the game, I think it's really good because at least for me, I'm learning how to fight. Like, I don't know about parrying. I don't know about anything. And like getting hit with something and then being able to be like, oh, I can kill this guy if I get 3, R1s off in time and regain my health is really good. But very quickly, the regain mechanic is just like useless, and they completely abandon it because enemies just do too much damage where you can't risk going back in because you're at 15% health because they hit you with their one thing. Or they're going to combo you to death like the snakes or something like that, and they're just going to keep hitting you and poison you, and you'll just die that way. So you have to back out and heal, which feels like how Dark Souls and Demon Souls were. Even though they tried to make this game differently, I still was like, after 10 hours or something, I was like, oh yeah, now that's just what I do now. Like the regain like almost doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've definitely experienced that just finishing the game. The last quarter of it, I almost never am playing for regain, especially because my blood vial maximum is up. I'm more comfortable using them.
Yeah.
And you just can't... it's either you're one hit away from dying or the health bar is so big that you have to refill that you'd have to land like 8 hits in a row before the time expires. And one way the game ups the challenge is you'll be introduced to a couple enemies on their own, and then all of a sudden you'll enter a new area and you'll have 15 enemies in front of you. This happens in Central Yarnum, the opening area.
Yeah.
And it's like, how am I going to do this? But when you're in those group fights, the ability to regain, especially when there are ranged people behind, or or there's a dog chasing you, you can't really use it. So I agree. I hadn't really thought about it until you said it, but it's I definitely experienced that. Also, I'm sorry, I have COVID, so my voice is going to change throughout and get scratchy and get nasally. But I am so just apologies for that.
All good, brother.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll say I agree. I think most of the time the safest option is roll out and blood vial up. I will say for like some of the later boss fights, it's often a question of, do I have enough blood vials to last this whole fight? So in terms of like blood vial, like stretching them out as long as possible, I will do some regain attacks that way. And while it won't fill my health back up, it might fill my health up a quarter. And if you do that, over the course of the fight 10 times, right? That's 4 full health bars.
That's value.
Yeah. And
that's compound interest.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's paying.
I was like,
dividends.
That's
paying
like that
dividends. That's paying dividends.
Yeah, especially like the, we'll get like the whole parrying and visceral attack thing, which, by the way, I would have never learned if you guys just didn't tell me exactly how to do it. I seriously don't think I ever would have gotten that. Because you have a gun.
I don't think I knew about it when I first played either.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
We didn't mention that you have a gun, which is also really unique to this game as opposed to like the Dark Souls games, which does 0 damage. It does like 10 damage. And even the most squishy basic enemies in the game have like 300 health. So that's just like to paint a picture of how useless it is. And bullets are a finite resource. So the entire point of having a gun in this game is just to time your shot for when they're about to fucking wreck you. And that stuns them. And then you get a really powerful, like unblockable attack, basically. So again, like, I wish I knew about it without you guys just explicitly telling me exactly how to do it, but that's besides the point. But I was going to say for the regain, like that enemies that you could visceral attack, I do think the regain still worked late game, right? Because that's like, they can't do anything. I'm immune and I'm about to get a huge chunk. Again, the Shadows of Yharnam, I think, are a great example of like a boss fight really working for me because you're getting attacked by 3 guys at once, but you can go immune if you hit a visceral and regain all the health that you just lost from like getting hit by a fireball or something, you know? But yeah, again, like you fight these humongous fucking animals, beasts, alien fucks that are like the size of a building. You can't like, I tried so many times to like stun them and visceral them and parry them. It just does nothing. They just eat your ass. And like, so you can't do it against them. You just got to get out of there.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 separate types of combat, right? There's like the player, there's like the hunters, and,
humanoid.
Yeah, and even some beasts, and then there's like these giant bosses, basically, where the rules are essentially different than the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. And that's way more Dark Souls-y, right?
Yeah, way more Dark Souls-y, where basically the strategy is like get behind them and hit them in the legs. Which has always been a Dark Souls thing. And like they always try and address it with every game. Like the enemies, the boss spins around or the boss jumps up and turns around and lands on you. And they've kind of fixed it now, but it took them a long time. And Dark Souls is no different.
I mean, it's funny because it is a really hard problem when they're so huge that you can't like the camera's all messed up, like everything's screwed. So literally the only part of them that's like touching the ground is their feet. So that's, I think, where it stems from. But yeah, I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, I think Dave said, I don't have the exact question here, but he basically said, like, I don't really like fighting bosses in this game. I usually summon people to help me. He doesn't care about the boss fights. And I both hate and love the boss fights. Like I dread them, but also love beating them. And I love specifically what you don't like, Alon, right? Which is the like learning that attack pattern, and like trying to basically figure out this sort of like 3D puzzle of like, you could think about it maybe like a bunch of blades swinging from the ceiling, and in order to get across the walkway, you have to time it correctly or something.
Indiana Jones shit or something.
Yeah. And I think in line maybe with Dave, like once I figure it out or I just get really frustrated or something, I sometimes will just be like, okay, I'll summon somebody or like whatever. But I do really enjoy it. I love like the models. I'm like so excited to see what they do when they like show up on the screen, like what gross shit they have for these enemies. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Dave said, I'm not a huge fan of the boss fights in these games. I'll often just summon in people even on my first attempt. They're often an exercise in managing your patience and dealing with the camera.
Right.
Which I do kind of agree with. But what we didn't even mention like summoning. There is like an online aspect to this game. Danny, you want to talk about that maybe?
Yeah, well, there's two aspects to summoning. One, you can summon AI hunters who will assist you.
This wasn't in the original release, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they added this like in a
the
medium.
AI ones were?
Yes.
Yeah, but the co-op and invading was, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's the multiplayer aspect, if you choose to play it online, where in certain areas you can, after you get some items, you can summon other players to your game, and basically you play through that zone together. you can't run through the whole game together. Like you know, once the fight is over, that co-op person gets dismissed, but you can just rejoin. So it's not, you know, the game I don't think qualifies as a co-op game, but it does have that aspect. And then there are sections of the game where there's a sinister bell ringing, and basically it means you're open to invasion when you're in these areas by other people who are playing online. So you can ring this bell while you're, or like you can basically just be in these zones waiting for another player to come in. You'll teleport into their world. They get notified that you're there. You're given the name and like the information on the target, and you can try to kill them, and you get blood echoes, essentially the in-game currency, the souls of Bloodborne. And I didn't have any, and I got invaded once this playthrough and got absolutely shit on. It was so bad. Just someone who felt like they were such a higher level than me, but you know, there's so many great YouTube videos, and Teddy has a great, I don't know if it's Bloodborne or a Dark Souls invade, where
Dark Souls 3.
or Teddy is pretending to be a statue. He's like taking a potion that turns him into a statue and then kills someone. I had one where I chased someone and he accidentally ran off a cliff. There's like all these great moments that are almost always really janky because this game doesn't lend itself to online competitive play very well. These like clunky, slow games, but so it's kind of like, if you want it to be a big part of your game, you can make it that. You can spend a lot of time getting into co-op together, and you can try to invade, but it's not like, it's a non-essential part of the game for sure.
It does sound fun though, but I have heard that the actual like PvP fighting is really bad, and it's just like people, because they have the exact same moveset as you, because every weapon's the same and every build's the same, so it's like swing, back off, heal, swing, back off, heal, like parry, visceral, heal, you know, it just like goes on forever with like both players have 20 blood vials, and you know. And
the blunderbuss is really OP online because the like wide range of the hit, and it always staggers you when you get hit. And it's the same as Hunter on Hunter combat in this in the offline mode, where those are, even though it's funny because when you shoot an enemy and they don't take any damage, you're like, this is so useless. But if you get hit, even if you take 5 damage but you get staggered, it's like, I'm so fucked. This is insane.
Which is, that happens nonstop in the first or second boss fight in Gascoigne, and that I was so annoyed. It was just like, he just shoot from across the entire graveyard with his bullets that spread, and they all stagger you, and then you get like one shot or something. But yeah.
So I think the weapons are, because you were saying, so there are different builds, and the weapons are, some of them are by Danny.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm just turning off my camera because I'm just like going to be crying and sneezing and blowing my nose.
No problem.
And I don't want to have to think about it.
So like if you build Blood Tinge, your guns do a lot of damage because you're basically you're giving your blood, because the bullets are made of your blood or imbued with your blood. And there you can also build Arcane, which is like kind of arcane, and you have to like use runes correctly in your weapons, so to make them do like extra fire damage or extra bolt damage. But it's like really hard to do on your first run. But my favorite weapon is the Chikage, which is you get at the Canehurst Castle, which is a sword that in its transformed mode, you stab it into yourself and cover it in your blood. And so you're slowly, in this transform mode, you're slowly taking damage as like it drains blood from you, and you do extra damage because your blood tinge is high, in addition to dealing extra damage with ranged weapons. But in the main game, this was the only weapon that was like this, and
it's fucking hard to find.
It's you find it really late. So
it's like, unless you know exactly where you're going and have a walkthrough or played it before, like you're not going to get there and get this weapon.
And you can't beat it by yourself. It's like a very hard fight.
Right.
So
there's a Guilty Gear Strive character that's really good. I can't remember what he's called, but he basically has a blood meter, and if it gets too high, he like rips his mask off and his health just starts going down to basically to 1. But in that moment, he can do like unlimited strings of attacks. So it's like balancing like, do you want to hit that threshold or not? It feels sort of like influenced by this, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And so that was like a fun way to mix it up, I thought. Is there were there other weapons you guys liked? Because that was a question we got from.
I love the Tonitrus. This most recent playthrough was an arcane build, just running around like electrifying it constantly, getting it revved up. And it's nice just when you're sprinting through an area. It's almost like a taunt as you're running past enemies, just flicking your mace at them, showing them your power.
That's awesome.
But the Chikage is amazing, but honestly, when I first played the game, just the fact that they're all trick weapons and have multiple forms, or I guess 2 forms each one has, is so cool. Like the threaded cane, which is a cane with a blade at the end that you can swing, but then it also switches into like a chain whip. And the Kirk hammer, which is a sword that is either a sword, or you can insert the sword into basically a cinder block and then swing it as a hammer. And there's just like all these amazing combos where you can switch in between. And so I just feel like almost every weapon, as I pick it, I'm like, this is so awesome, even though I'm never going to use this.
Yeah, I struggle with that balance of like, I agree that they're all cool. I think I've played 30 hours. I'm 2/3 of the way through the game, and I have 4 weapons unlocked, maybe 5. But it's bad. Like they're bad weapons. Like that I put all my resources into upgrading one weapon, and then I get a weapon that's significantly worse, and it looks cool, but it does no damage. And then I'm just like, this sucks. I can't kill anyone, you know? So like I love the idea of them, but yeah, in execution, which is like overall how I feel about this game, is like, wow, thematically great, and then the execution I just think is like so bad. And the weapons are a good example of that, right? I'm like, I have the axe, the starting weapon, and I'm like, this is just stronger than any other weapon I've gotten. It's just better than every weapon. The starting weapon, and it's the most basic melee axe possible in any game. And unless you have a fucking walkthrough and summon a friend to help you beat a boss that you can't even find, you don't get a weapon better than it. So it's like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah, I think that connects to like a question Bacon asked, which is, I've personally found that these games are easier to fully grasp on New Game Plus or just a second playthrough with a new character. Maybe because the first run is a lot of trial and error, and I don't like looking things up. And on the second run, I can play the quote-unquote right way. How'd the experience differ for you guys? If there was more of a helping hand in the way of navigation mechanics upgrades, or do you prefer to look stuff up as you go?
Well, I think what's interesting about this game, because it is a JRPG technically, and how different it is from other JRPGs, which are just filled with instructions, menus, tutorials, text. And this game is the exact opposite, right? It just kind of throws you in and gives you some almost like in-world language to describe how to use weapons. You'll just have like a message with PlayStation buttons in it, but it's like, to wield this trick weapon, press X to, do this or whatever it is. So it's a remarkably little amount of hand-holding, I think, for what is such a difficult game. I definitely had way more fun on my second and third playthroughs than on my first. I think one of the big things is that beyond all the mechanics, just the level design is amazing, and everything connects, and you end up coming back to an area you were just in, and you have no idea how it's mapped out that way, but it is. And it's very impressive. But going through, you have to pay so much attention your first time through, like remembering where you are, especially in places like the woods or in some of these other zones where things look a lot alike. There's something about the familiarity of the locations. Like, I don't have to think about navigation because I know where this path goes. And getting to that point, it's really not about the journey, it's the destination, I think, in terms of maximum enjoyment. You kind of like got to get through the grind, and then you're there and you have total mastery of Central Yharnam or the Nightmare Frontier or whatever it is.
Yeah, what is New Game Plus?
New Game Plus is after you beat the game, you start from the very beginning again with the same character and all your levels and everything.
Gotcha.
And it's
Yeah.
like a
But like things aren't unlocked yet.
yeah, nothing's unlocked. I think you might still have all the same key items like to unlock certain doors,
okay.
but maybe not even. So essentially, it lets you to like play the game with the sword you got on the final boss.
I see. Yeah.
Fuck, I forget the name of the game that invented this. I feel like it was maybe Castlevania.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But yeah, I absolutely agree with this. And I think like maybe the thing that's different between us, Alon, right, is like, so for me, I played the first 2/3 of Bloodborne and then...
Oh, it was Chrono Trigger.
Oh, it was Chrono Trigger. That's right. Yeah.
Throwback.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think like 2/3 of the way through, I realized like, I mismanaged my stats. There's like a skill cap. There's like a stat cap on some stats. And like, I was like, I've been doing this all wrong. And I was just like, oh man, I can't wait to like start a new character.
Mm-hmm.
And like 2/3 of the way through the game, I just like stopped playing and started a new file with a new character and was like, oh yeah, like this is so awesome. Like I get the game now. And so I usually don't do New Game Plus. I like kind of like the struggle from the beginning, but yeah, it takes me a little while to like understand the language of the game. And I don't know if I love that part of the process, but I love the end and like, navigating the game once I have that language.
I told you, it's the destination, not the journey.
Well, it's the journey again. Once you learn how to do the journey better, then it's the journey.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I looked up if there's like, oh, what build should I do? What weapon should I get? And that's ultimately why I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to keep playing because they're all the fucking same. You know, like everyone's just like, no, it's still just melee and you still just use your gun to visceral and you still level up the same shit and the other weapons are based. I was just like, oh, okay. Which is why, like, even in the Discord, I was saying, like, I think these games are supposed to be played with a walkthrough. Like, I think that, like Damon just finished the game. I'm pretty sure he just looked everything up as he was playing. Absolutely loved the game. He just got, like, the best gun. He got the flamethrower. He got the best farming area in the game unlocked early, so he didn't have to spend, I don't know, 1/3 of his time playing just farming for blood vials to heal. Just stuff like that. I'm just like, yeah, that's like how it's supposed to be played and how one would think this is good. And I also, similar to Bacon, just hate looking stuff up. I'm like, what's the fucking point? You know, like that's how I feel about looking stuff up in the game is what's the point of fucking playing it if it's just going to tell me what to do and where to go and how to get the good stuff. I just feel like it loses it.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between looking up how to do everything and looking up where something is or how to get into a certain area. And I think like when I've played my first run of Bloodborne, I didn't like get to any of the optional bosses. I was like basically on the final boss of the game. And like beating the game on its own terms and in its messiness, and then going back and like using a walkthrough to like poke at some of the areas you didn't know about. Is like where I'll bring in a walkthrough. But yeah, like I did face this issue with like Elden Ring where I actually was just on my first playthrough like looking stuff up a lot because I was like, this game is so big and there's so much I could do and I don't want to spend 250 hours in this game despite it being good. Like I'm just looking for something. Like I'm just looking for a key to this magic school, and I just need to get in it.
And ultimately, I think you really like that game, right? Like it didn't ruin it for you.
It didn't ruin it, but it did taint it. I would say like my experience is like it doesn't feel authentic or pure. Yeah. It just feels like I had to take like a bunch of shortcuts, and what I've been trying to, I haven't been able to like actually coherently come up with like a thesis about this, but Bloodborne to me is like, or these games are sort of like big giant puzzles.
I think it's a puzzle game. I
Yeah.
don't think it's an action RPG at all. I just want to interrupt you and say that. I've been thinking about this whole time. Like, there's very little action about this. There's less action. This is like Jet Set Radio levels of action. You memorize the one graffiti pattern and you just do it over and over again. There's no like live improvisation or anything like that, right? It's like, and yeah, it's just a big, giant, interconnected puzzle that you have to like unlock. That's the game.
Yes, definitely. It's, and there are different pieces to that puzzle, right? It's not all just word puzzles. It's word puzzles and matching puzzles and trivia puzzles.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different things working together. And right, some of it's combat, some of it's combat again with visceral attacks, some of it's combat against bosses where you can only see their feet.
Yeah.
Some of it's like figuring out how the stat scaling works. And some of that stuff works better than others. Like figuring out how stat scaling works and like fucking up your entire build and not doing a good job is like, there's not really a good way to lose at doing that. But one thing I wanted to say, like, I don't know if you like cheesed any fights, Alon.
I did the one you watched, remember? The hunter in Old Yarnum.
Oh, yes. So I think a lot, and I don't know how you feel about this. I think a lot of people like who like think Souls should be played the right way don't like this. But I've always thought that this game is like really unfair. And these games are really unfair. Like there's like traps that you fall through. Enemies will just like be hidden around a corner, and when you go around to pick up an item, somebody will jump on you. And it's like this game is just like fucking with you a lot of the time.
Yes.
So when you have an opportunity to like hide in a doorway and like poke someone with your like weapon as it's clipping through the wall, to me that's like you're like getting back at the game or
you're
something.
having a conversation with Miyazaki, right? Like I agree with you, and that's to take it like one step further. That is why Damon looks stuff up. He doesn't look stuff up because he doesn't like hard games or doesn't like, you know what I mean? He's struggling or something. He's just like, no, this game fucks with me. I'm just gonna fuck with it and be, you know what I mean? Be the most powerful I can be and kill everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because there's so many of these cheese moments and they have not changed them, right? There's no big patches like, oh, this spider would get stuck in the doorway all the time and you can kill it no problem, or there's a chalice dungeon where you can get 90,000 blood echoes for free. We patched it out, which honestly, considering it's a multiplayer game, shocks me they didn't do that. But it's I think I don't know if they encourage it, but they're like, this is the game, and however you figure out your way to push through these obstacles is fine with us.
Right. It's almost like speed running, right? It's sort of like, this is the game and, you know, figure it out. It's not like, oh, this enemy is meant to be stabbed with a sword, and if you don't stab him with a sword, you're playing the game wrong. It's like, no, if you can figure out you can throw your poison knife at him enough times to poison him and you buy 100 of them from the shop, you can win that way. Like, I think we were going to talk about this with Spelunky, but in relation to Spelunky and how we were always buying the Ankh, but there's a dragon in Demon Souls that like it took me fucking forever to figure out how to get past. He just flame breaths the bridge every time you go on it. And then like I found out like years later that everybody just shoots him full of like 500 arrows and he eventually dies. Like his health bar just goes down tick.
Oh my God.
Tick. And I just never did that. And so like, yeah, I think I ended up coming back through a different way or something like that, but I just couldn't. I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, like there are definitely parts of this game and like, you know, the FromSoft vibe that I love, and like this is definitely one of them. It's like it reminds me of like Arcane Kids. Like I talked about on the Neon White episode, right? They have like their manifesto, like bad is better than good, and the purpose of gameplay is to find secrets and stuff like that. Like I feel like those guys probably love these games, right? It's like there's a lot of similarities of like a living game designer in the game that is constantly fucking with you. And you're responding to that in ways that are funny and weird, right? Like I posted that clip of like, that was like very early on. I'm like exploring the sewers in Central Yarnum and the big like pig fucker is about to kill me. And he literally just clips into the wall and disappears. And I was just like, okay, like, and I would laugh out loud when that happened. I was like, wow, this game is a piece of shit in like the best way. Where like there is a little bit of running into this, I think that like it does become a little bit tedious at times because the enemies, similar to the Castlevania complaints that we all had, where the enemies respawn in the exact same area every single time and attack the same way every single time and are hiding behind the same corner every single time. And so you have to go through these same areas if you're a new player and not good yet, like me, 50 times, 100 times. And it becomes interesting. It goes from like interesting, fun, like, yeah, blah, 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 they're fucking with me, to like, this is just so tedious and repetitive and boring. And there's no fun moments and there's no payoff either. Right? Like the first time I like cleared Central Yarnum because I thought I was supposed to kill everything, right? I was like, okay, fucking everyone's dead. Let's go. You get nothing. Nothing happens. No benefit. You level up like one level, maybe max. But to level up, you have to go back to the Hunter's Dream. And then when you come back from the Hunter's Dream, everyone's respawned again. And it just, yeah, I don't know. At first, it's like, there's a lot of fun, I think, at being careful with like how many enemies you aggro and like being conservative because your health is low and you're scared of dying and you have blood echoes that you don't want to lose. I think like there are moments I was playing where I was so locked in and like that felt amazing. And I'm exploring a new zone and I have, early on, if you have like 15,000 blood echoes, it's a fucking lot and you're like scared and whatever. And then like you round the corner and like it's an enemy you've never seen before and they one shot you before you have a chance. And then like you learn you shouldn't explore, you shouldn't take risks. You should have spent those blood echoes. Now you have to farm for 2 more hours. And you got no benefits from being risky and from exploring. And so everything is just like, oh, well, that I just wasted the last 4 hours. It was really stupid, and now I have to do it again.
Yeah, so you're not wrong. And I think people probably play this differently. But like what I like to do is just like clear an area completely once. And then in my mind, it's beaten. Like I've done the thing.
Meaning you just run by everyone.
I just run by every single person. I've picked up every item that's in every nook and cranny. I've explored this whole zone. And then if I die in a stupid way or in a legit way, it doesn't matter. I'm never fighting anybody again.
Yeah.
And because as far as I'm concerned, I've got it. And like maybe that's like lame to run by every enemy every time, but or sometimes I'll like clear an area mostly and I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to go back and get my spend all my echoes, and then I'm just going to run essentially back to this part. Like there's like this, I found a little bit of a shortcut or something.
It seems like a boss might be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like it. Yeah, like is the game? Is that what you're supposed to do? Are you supposed to run past everybody every time? Like that just seems silly. Like
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to hear what you think about this too, Danny. But it's like, for me, the best part of the game is the world that it creates. and everything that goes into that, right? How it looks, how it feels, how it sounds. And I don't want to run by enemies because I don't want to run through the world.
Right.
And if running by the enemies is a core mechanic that is expected for you to do, then just put checkpoints, because then you don't have to run through the world. You just get checkpoints and you get to enjoy the world and have checkpoints. You know what I mean? It's like there's not a hard gate in terms of like you can't run through a new area and explore it while running, but there's a hard gate in terms of like, oh, well, an enemy you've never seen before is going to jump on your head and suck your fucking brain out of it and make your head explode. And you had no idea that was even possible. And then you lose all your progress and you have to go back and then run through it again. It just, all of these things just sort of clash. And again, this is like very similar to what we had problems with in Symphony of the Night, right? I remember saying like, don't be a fucking idiot. Go back all the way to the save point because you're going to fucking lose all your progress and run into a random boss or a random whatever, die to some spikes and lose and be so fucking mad. And it's like, there's a lot of that in this game too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as with regards to running past enemies, I mean, when it comes to fighting bosses or getting back to boss fights, I think you're kind of making a trade-off because I find, at least most of the time, once you've unlocked a shortcut to a boss fight, you can probably pretty reliably kill the 5 to 10 enemies that you would kill to get back to the boss. And if you have that locked in, and it's going to take you, now not all of us are savants like Alon, but if it's going to take me 10 or 15 tries to beat a boss, then that's 10 to 15 rounds of farming echoes that I getting back to the boss. And yeah, like you said, I really love the world and love the feeling love the immersion of the sound and of the voice lines of the enemies and the sounds of the enemies, and kind of running through that multiple times, especially in service of just getting to the boss, it doesn't bother me, or something that I enjoy doing. And it's a way to kind of grind up and level up because you can go in, pick up your blood echoes because they're always going to be in the boss area. Now, I guess you run the risk of getting killed in the meantime and then you lose everything you've had. But it's and you just can't. You can't really. You can only run through repeat areas, I think. I mean, you can run through later ones if you don't want to fight anyone, but you will find yourself under-leveled and with no idea what's going on. More often than not, you're going to run around a corner and get killed by something. Like late in the game, there's a pig that you can visceral, and you're like, oh, this is like an easy area. And then all of a sudden, there's 2 pigs looking at you with 1,000 eyes, and they can just. Even at level like 80 or whatever I am.
Oh my god, when that pig turns around and it's got all those eyes, that part is so fucking good.
Yeah, right after Mikolash is saying, bless us with eyes, as you did for Lom.
Like, so you visceral a pig, Alon, and you don't kill, because it's standing ass to you.
Yeah. You
and
gotta
then
stick
you don't
your hand
kill
up
it.
its ass.
Yeah, you don't kill it, and then it turns around, but it's not just a regular pig. It's like, got a pig with like 100 eyes on it, and it's so terrifying.
But yeah, I mean, I just think. Well, I was thinking about the One Reborn, which is a late game boss, which is kind of like an amalgamation of zombies and skeletons and decomposing flesh, and it attacks you with kind of piles of this oozing pus-filled flesh body parts,
and it kicks you with its little skeleton feet.
Yeah, it's got all covered, and it's got little limbs that'll just poke at you if you try to attack its feet. It almost seems like a meme about how you always have to aim for the legs because it's got these giant, ridiculous feet in the middle that you attack. But I was thinking about the artists who work on video games who make these beautiful set pieces and beautiful enemies and characters. And it's like, we need you to make the most grotesque, scary, oozy creature you can, and just they bring the first drafts to more.
Yeah,
like more ooze, more pus, more skeleton skulls, and just how funny it is that they have to turn their talents to that for this game. But it works so well. There's just the environments are beautiful. All the enemies just look amazing, and there's subtle differences like there's the second phase of the game. There are enemies that revive after 30 seconds after you kill them. If you don't kill the bell ringing woman who's kind of triggering that power, and they are and they look exactly like everyone else you fought, except they're covered in blood. And just the way that blood the blood motif ties into everything is just it's so perfectly done. Just you get bloodier as you get more blood echoes. They just leaned all the way in every way, and I just think the world hits perfectly.
So I just want to say that I've had this quote before, but it's with some dude who was an artist for Dark Souls 2. He's talking about working with Miyazaki, and he says, when I was drawing the undead dragon, I submitted a design draft that depicted a dragon swarming with maggots and other gross things. Miyazaki handed it back to me saying, "This isn't dignified. Don't rely on the gross factor to portray an undead dragon. Can't you instead try to convey the deep sorrow of a magnificent beast doomed to a slow and possibly endless descent into ruin?"
Oh my fucking god.
Wow, that's how you know this guy's fucking built different. What the fuck?
Putting Kojima to shame.
That
so like
is
if
insane.
it's fucking legendary. I think about it all the time.
It's
and
so sick.
And I guess we can come back maybe to combat, because I think we keep going into the world design. But
yeah, let's talk about the world and exploration and stuff, because I have things too.
Yeah, he's very deliberate, right? And if something's gross, I think it's gross for a reason, or I hope it's gross for a reason. And this game is really gross and has lots of fucked up stuff going on, but I think it is to convey the messages he's trying to convey. So, Alon, is there something specific you wanted to talk about with the world?
Well, it's funny because, I mean, one of the reasons I was sort of dreading this episode, and we all talked about it beforehand, but it's just sort of, it's hard when the things that people love about a game are the things that you don't like about it, and then you get into sort of, this part's so good, and then me saying this part's so bad, and that I've had a really hard time just in preparation for this episode, like trying to wrap my head around, like, but why don't I like it, right? And so a lot of the things that you just said, Danny, are things that I have as bad things. But the reason that I sort of wrapped back to why I think they're bad is because I think the exploration in the world is so good and the best part of the game. And I'm glad you brought up the enemies respawning, because I have that part too from in Yahar'gul, when you get there and the enemies just start never ending respawn basically. And there's so many people like down that staircase and stuff like that. I want to explore that zone. It's like when the game becomes the most visually stunning is when you can do the least exploring. It's like all of a sudden I can't just kill people and walk around and look at that giant fucking spider and look at the sky and look at the moon and check out the buildings and see like there's jail cells downstairs and see these rotting corpses and all this fucking cool shit. Because I'm just either sprinting by everyone or dying trying to fight them, or it just like becomes such a pain in the ass. And it's so visually stunning and you can't even enjoy it. And then also the other thing is that while exploration I think is probably my favorite part of the game, you get like no benefits from it also. And I'm not saying that like every game should be Zelda and you open a treasure chest and get a new weapon or something like that, but you basically just get bullshit. You just get chalices or bullets or blood vials or blood shards that you already have 1,000 of that can't upgrade your weapon anymore. You just get like literally useless shit that just takes up slot in your backpack, even though you just like explored this like secret area that was really tough enemies to get through and blah blah blah, and it was really stunning. But yeah, I don't know. So that's my main frustrations, I think, with like the exploration part of it.
And I think there's, I mean, this is where the parody of the, and that's parity, of the weapons and armor makes it challenging, because yeah, you could explore an area and you get a weapon and it's like, well, this isn't what I'm building for, or it's just I don't like the way this one feels, even though it might be really good, and you're just stuck without it. Or you didn't get a reward for exploring that area in theory.
Or it's just way worse than the weapon you have, which is usually the case for me. Yeah.
But I do think there's some kind of artistic direction in the way the game starts to narrow later. Obviously, it is visually stunning, and there are a few moments of awe you can have where you can like Yarnum, the mother who's like crying right before the Murgo's wet nurse fight, and just these moments where you can kind of just look at what's happening, listen to the sound that you're under the pale blood moon, but you're being driven to beasthood. You're killing everything. You're killing every hunter you find. You're killing every enemy you find. You're killing people, and all in search for an umbilical cord, right? You're chasing the sound of this baby crying. And the way, yes, I totally understand what you mean, that like you wish you could kind of stop and take it in more, but because it gets so difficult and you have enemies respawning and I don't know what they're called, those creatures that are on top of the buildings later.
Amygdala.
Yeah, amygdala.
Amygdalas, Senator Amygdalas everywhere.
Pronounced amygdala in some places.
Those things are so cool. Yeah.
And it's just like it's almost like you imagine if you were there, you wouldn't have time to look at anything and be like, if you stare, you will go insane, right? Like this is horrifying. There are these like, how am I to escape this nightmare, this dream that has become a nightmare now? So again, I don't know. That either lands or it doesn't for people, right? If that is the goal, but there is something about it, about the chaos and insanity that you feel creeping in later and later in the game. All of a sudden, there are birds with dog heads and dogs with bird heads, and they're fast and loud. The baby's crying in the background. You're just like, wow, my fucking God.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying in terms of like nothing helps you. I do think there's like there's environmental storytelling taking place. So I think when you clear an area, I think you clear all like the nearby aggro mobs, the aggressive mobs, and you can then like spend some time looking at stuff. And also there are like items and corpses, I think, like placed in ways that do some storytelling too. So like you go to near the cathedral ward, if you go to that street where like everybody's partying in that alley, and there's like, that's where you get the prostitute to bring her back to the church, just as a safe place, not for anything else. Not that there would be anything wrong with that. But there's like a healing church corpse there, right? And like you knock on someone's door and someone's like, oh, we love the church and everything they've done for us. And like, this person in the church is like visiting this like seedy part of the town. Those clothes aren't like especially good, but they have like descriptions on them about like what the church does. And I think all that together is just like experience. And for me, it like that is just like I'll never put those clothes on. I just don't think I ever will. But I will read the description and I will like notice how it's placed and be like, this is interesting. And maybe it's a little on the nose, maybe it's a little telegraphed. But yeah, I do think like you're not gonna like find the gun that's gonna like make your game that's now gonna like upgrade your character.
Yeah, it's no, I keep going.
Yeah, and it's I think one thing that is a huge mistake of this game, and I think they actually have acknowledged it by making the DLC full of weapons, and we've touched on this before, which is just there aren't a lot of weapons to find. I think there's like 10 weapons in the main game. And they tried to make them like kind of weird and different.
Oh, cool.
So, but yeah. So yeah, I kind of both.
Yeah, I'm in
both
between
minds.
you guys because I love all that stuff that you just described, Teddy. And I understand what you mean, Danny, because ultimately it's supposed to be a role-playing game, right? Like you're supposed to be going insane when that shit's happening. but it's just like I can't take in all the stuff that Teddy just talked about because there's 3 hunters attacking me at once in the coolest part of the game so far. And it's just like, what the fuck is this? You know, I'm just going to run by them, which again, like I don't like. And, you know, and then I'm going to run all the way till I reach another boss and then die and then farm for more blood vials and then run to the boss again and die again. It's like, ah, man, just gets so tedious to me that, like, I don't know, maybe, you know, there's some articles you read that people are like, it took me years before I liked Bloodborne. That's like not that uncommon. And maybe I'll get there one time. But
I mean, that was my experience with Bloodborne. This is a strange thing about these games. My first attempt was very similar to the way you started, where I didn't know I could pick up weapons. I had no idea what was going on, and I could not kill the first enemy. And I played hours and hours and hours and hours trying to do it. Not 10 hours, but more than 4, certainly.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I just suck and I can't play this game. And then came back a few years later and beat it my first time. Then played a second time a year after that. And then, you know, just had this third experience, and just, this was, you know, like I said, the most fun, my favorite one I've had yet. And it's I don't know, is that a good game that it you know, that's my best experience with the game took place after 70 hours of gameplay. Like that's my playtime of my other 2 characters.
Which is a lot of where I'm coming from, which is just like,
right,
this
yeah,
is bad.
so,
like, keep going.
Yeah, so,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And I think, I guess it takes a certain kind of psychosis or affectation for that to sit well. But
and this is something we faced in the chat a bit, which is like people saying this isn't a good first Souls game to play.
Yeah. What does that mean, really?
And I think mostly it's because of some people say it's because of the healing situation. You don't automatically restore your health potions. Some people are saying it's because it's like the anti-Souls, because it's like undoing everything you learned, and it's like teaching you how to like parry with guns, and it's like fast, where Dark Souls is slow. Which I think is just immediately, if true, a huge failure of the game. If you take that as true, that like you can't play this game first as a Souls game, it's just, this game has a huge problem.
Yeah.
And maybe it does. Like I don't know for sure because it's not my first game.
Yeah.
And you see this, you can like, I've searched a bit on this on Reddit, and everyone's like, this game was my first Souls and I fucking hated it. And Bloodborne was my first Souls and I fucking loved it. Dark Souls 2 was my first Souls and it was the worst, or it was the best. And like, I don't really know how it clicks. Like we were talking about Maddie Myers, who's like one of my favorite games journalists, and she hated Bloodborne and hated Souls. And like, I was just on her Twitter recently and looking up, I added her to try and get her to talk to me, and she wouldn't. And she was like, I'm so Souls pilled now. I just like saw one of her tweets. And yeah, I don't know what happens and where and why. But yeah, it's just like an interesting quirk.
I think personally, and I have no experience in any of the other games, and this is my first playthrough, so I'm like maybe out of my depth, but I go back to Bacon's question where he also loves the Soulsborne games. I think Bloodborne's like the only one he hasn't played. But he said he likes playing it on New Game Plus, and everyone, I mean, you guys are saying you had more fun on your second and third playthrough or whatever, where I think that I just run into so many contradictions in all of these glaring reviews of the game, where I'm sitting here reading it going insane, being like, that's bad. And they're just writing about how good it is. And I legitimately read an article on Kotaku of the writer missing the long loading screens. He's like, they're good. He said, it's a spectacular testament to the power of Miyazaki and wields over us all. He holds us captive in the prism of his faultless reputation. Everything Miyazaki does, he does for a reason. If we don't understand, that is our own human failing. You're defeated. I'm like, you're fucking Stockholm syndrome is crazy. You're fucking out of your mind. Like the way that you could say a minute-long load time every time you die or go to the Hunter's Dream is good is just fucking a perfect example of like all of this. And, you know, I watched a lot of stuff and read a lot of stuff about it. And that was like pretty unanimously how I felt about what I was hearing. You know, like there's the video I linked to in Discord, and that guy is doing like a 4-hour video about all the Soulsborne series. He says the words out of his mouth. I spend 20 to 30% of my playtime farming for blood vials in his glorious review of the best perfect game ever. And I'm like, that sucks dick. That is so bad. Like,
what you have
that is wild.
Inexcusable.
So what you have to ask yourself, right, to stay sane is what bad design implementation would be in the next game or this game that you would say this is bad.
Right. Wait, say that again?
Like what bad game design would you take as good just because this is a Miyazaki Soulsborne or whatever, right?
Right.
And there has to be some in here, right? There's got to be many in here. And I think it's important to like keep those in mind.
I watched a video of how to get to the castle. Sorry, what's it called again? Canesworth?
Canehurst Castle.
Canehurst. And I was like, because I wanted to check it out, because a lot of people in these articles were saying it's the best area of the game. And I literally looked up a walkthrough like map of how to find it, and I still couldn't find it. So I just watched a video of him going. And like, again, like one of the things I noticed as he's raving about how this is his favorite game ever, his favorite area of the game, blah, blah, blah. He's 30 levels higher than me with the unlocked best weapon in the game, best armor in the game. Still struggling with like the fucking tick monsters and like the worms. Like he still almost dies. And he's played probably 70 hours of the game and has all of the best loot. And I'm like, if that's what it takes to like the coolest area in the game, like, again, that's fucking bad. That means that I'll never find it because I don't like the game. And even if I did find it, it'd be so insanely difficult to kill all these tick monsters and worms because you can't even fucking do it. And I'm way under leveled because I'm a fucking idiot and I started on like the hardest imaginable difficulty. So you know, I don't know. It's just like there's so much.
What I think is going on here, and this has been crystallized by Super Hexagon, is there is something that is so satisfying about being presented with an impossible task, doing it, getting better, you're a better player, your character gets stronger, you get a new item or whatever it is, and then you're hit with another impossible task, right? Every boss fight you lose, not every time, but so many boss fights you lose on your first try, and you're like, what the fuck? And you get to a new area, and it's like, wait, I have to fight 10 of these ghouls? I've been fighting one-on-one and barely surviving, right? And there is all this frustration in it, but when you're able to do it, there's nothing that really recreates that feeling of surmounting impossibility. Super Hexagon is like this. The first Super Hexagon is this iOS game, or I guess it's everywhere now, but originally an iOS game that you just have a little pointer that you're trying to navigate. You just turn it left or right to try to dodge encroaching hexagons. The first level is like the slowest speed.
So
yeah,
good.
it's a perfect game. And it's impossible. The first, you hand it to someone, if they get 10 seconds, if they survive for 10 seconds, you're like, wow, that was a really good first attempt.
Freak God, yeah.
Yeah. Or normally it's just they got extremely lucky, then their next 5 tries are 3 seconds. And then you beat it, you get to 60 seconds, you unlock a faster mode. And again, it's impossible. And you do this, there are 7 modes, 7 different speeds, getting faster and faster. And there's just nothing there's nothing quite like that loop and getting through that. And I think early coverage and descriptions of these games talked a lot about that. I feel like I don't see people talking about that much anymore. Like I feel like no one brought that up in Discord this time around, but it's something I always think about is like, it's almost like you're pushing yourself, and I mean you are pushing yourself and achieving something that to you, it's all relative, felt impossible, and that's an amazing, gratifying moment. And
this is is what kind of I'm of two minds about this. This is like what's sort of weird about it being an RPG, and this is what I think Sekiro did really well, where it just is like, actually you just have to get good at every fight, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. And Bloodborne and other Souls games, what I sort of like is, I think we talked about like an easy mode and stuff, is like if you just level up, you can do it eventually. If you just grind enough and you level up, you can do it. I don't think that's good, but like if you don't mind it, that's an option. And like this playthrough, I literally, I also just want to say Super Hexagon is like the iPhone handheld version of Souls games for me. It is like, I think about it all the time, just like repeated fast failure, forcing you to learn and play better, memorizing patterns. I just think of them as very similar in my mind. I have for maybe because I started playing them around the same time, but they're very similar to me. But I didn't farm a single blood vial or level up farm a level in this playthrough at a single time. And some of the fights were actually like really hard, and I did like very little damage, and it was just like a big marathon fight because of that. But I think this goes back to the bacon thing, which is, playing it on a New Game Plus. And we talked about this a little bit, which is, and I don't, I want to be a little careful with this comparison, is like, what would happen if you handed someone Shakespeare for the first time, right?
Yeah.
If you handed someone Faulkner for the first time, just being like, read some Faulkner, here you go. Like, I had no fucking idea what happened the first time I read a Faulkner book. I was like, I don't understand any of the words he's using. I don't really understand the prose. Like, there are like college courses you teach these for a reason. And Shakespeare has literally page by page translations for a reason. And if you don't enjoy the process of learning it, there's like nothing that's it, right? Like, and I think there are some serious problems with the games that do inhibit some of that learning. But I think like I just am fine looking past it because I enjoy a lot of that slog. Like I even enjoy I even enjoy the farming, right? I think Bacon said, when is it okay to farm resources in a game? Like I enjoy that puzzly aspect of it. Like, okay, I found these enemies that give a lot of echoes and B, also drop blood vials. And I'm going to run that 10 times and then I'm going to get 40 blood vials and then I'm going to buy 40 more. And like, I like dialed in some like strategic section of my map of this game. And while it's not like fun in terms of like I'm progressing the game in any way, it is like what Danny said, yeah, satisfying. I'm accomplishing something. Not only am I getting better at the game, I'm getting better at, resource stockpiling, like a strategy game or something. And if you like good action, like that sounds like a fucking joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, it's like I have so many responses, but just that immediately is another like review I read, right, where the person writing the review is complaining about farming blood vials, and the top comment is, "You can store 999 of them." And I'm like, yeah,
so
but
true.
you have to fucking farm for 24 hours straight if you want to get 999 of them. That doesn't solve the fucking problem. It just
Well, you know what? This
farm
actually
for longer.
I've been thinking about this in the context of, so I was a rower in high school and college, and well, I'm still a rower. Once a rower, always a rower, as we say in the sport. But I feel like rowers are strange because it's an endurance sport like so many others, where you are just forced to spend inordinate amounts of time repeating the motion over and over, just getting your heart rate up and just sitting there. But rowing in particular, because so much of it is done on machines, so it's all indoors looking at the shittiest monitor ever created. Even the newest one came out in 2021,
Yeah.
and it's the first one with a backlight. Like that was what they did, was they created a backlight. But and I like the sport, but there are people who just love sitting there erging hours and hours and hours, or getting on the spin bike for hours and hours and hours, and just not everyone likes sports. So like these are the Bloodborne, people who farm 999 blood vials are that version of it, right? They just sit in the work, as we used to say. They just sit in the work and get the blood vials.
Thank you, Danny, for that meme.
Yeah, it's just it's a strange psychology that people have for it, but and it's interesting because that's not Teddy's, and it's not my experience with the game, but people are like, oh yeah, this is a way to play this game, is to just grind it out, and then you can get through these areas, as opposed to what I imagine. Maybe I'm more like yours, Alon, where it's just smash and grab, right? Just I'm going to throw myself into this area of enemies, and
I'm not scared of you.
Hopefully I kill them, but I probably won't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, if I was to sort of crystallize what you guys are saying into why this game did not work for me, never clicked for me, is because, I mean, it's weird to say. Let me rewind. Like, when we were talking about, like, what's a Soulsborne early in the pod, like, as someone who has never played them, I sort of have a different perspective, because it's almost like what I've heard about them and, like, rumors of them, and, like, all I've really ever seen of them is Pete and Luke playing Dark Souls, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I have no idea what's happening. For me, like, the rumors going in were like, they're really, really hard. They're really hardcore. You're gonna die a lot, but like mastering the boss fights and stuff like that is just like the best feeling in the world. And I guess one of the big disappointments to me in this game, and I'm 2/3-ish through, I'm not going to finish it, is that I'm fine with hardcore games and I'm fine with dying a lot, but I don't get the payoff. Like, I played ROM, that was like 2 nights ago or something. I was on ROM, right? And that was Josh, our friend Josh, texted me that was his like favorite moment in the game, was the ROM fight. And I did exactly what I said to you guys early in the episode, where I died immediately. Then I died after a little bit of a grind fight, and then I perfected it. And it was never hard. I never felt like this is hard and it's going to be difficult for me to learn how to beat it. It just felt like, oh, he does these 2 things, and that I don't get hit by those 2 things, and you easily beat this boss. And so I never get the payoff. I haven't gotten the payoff. I've beaten 10 bosses, and I'm yet to get the payoff. Maybe Gascoigne, I got one, because he's the only one that really killed me a bunch of times, because I was still really new at the game. I couldn't land a visceral for shit. He just fucking blunderbussed me all day. It was such a nightmare. But from then on, the repeated failure is fine if you get the payoff of then, like, the good part. And I just don't get that. I haven't gotten that in this game. I've found the game surprisingly easy, in a way that I find boring. It's like, if I'm patient, the game is insanely easy. And if I'm not patient, I just get fucked.
Yeah.
And so that's like where I'm at with it, and why it just doesn't click for me.
I think that's right. I think if you're patient, it's easy. And I also think you learn the patterns probably faster than most people. I will say ROM is my favorite part of the game also, but because it's easy and because it's beautiful.
It's a relief, yeah.
Well, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
You just go into this place, and maybe we can transition into the story of the game, and like, there's some big spoilers here. Part of the joy of this game is like uncovering this.
Yeah.
But when you kill ROM, you open the pathway to like everything else. It seems like ROM is sort of like keeping all this on the periphery,
It says
And-
that in one of the things you read. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's like the spider hides the secrets or some shit like that. Yeah.
And like you just kind of go in and he doesn't attack
Like
you.
you
He's
did,
not
the vacuous
aggressive,
ROM.
right? He's not aggressive when you go up to him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, one of his attacks is like he wiggles and like bumps
rolls
into
over.
you. Yeah. And it's like, he's like the sad bug that you just come upon and slaughter. And I don't know. I also found like jumping into the lake beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
But so, I mean, when you're first playing this game, your impression is like, okay, there are beasts, right? The game is basically about beasts. People are turning into beasts. Beasts are bad.
I just want to interrupt because there's going to be people listening who haven't played it. It's like, it's like it's very typical. It's exactly what you're thinking of. Not in a bad way. I love it. I think the areas are really cool early, but it's like werewolves and like villagers running at you with torches and like ogres. It's like very like tropey standard beasts in like old
Victorian England,
that exact vibe, and it's great. I think it's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I'm careful how I talk about this with like Damon or Bacon, but it's once you kill Rom, it's no longer just werewolves.
No,
right? The game, like, it really goes like full fucked. It's like, okay, there's like a bunch of different gods. There's like the Healing Church is just actually just one cult in this whole big world. There's all these aliens everywhere that you couldn't really see before. There's literally like a green man, like a gray man alien who like walk around and like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like
it's
the
like
silliest shit you've ever seen. Yeah,
you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this game? Which I loved that. I just loved that transition from those two things. I thought that was just phenomenal. And like, I mean, this is the classic like Lovecraft type world.
I mean, you watched me play Teddy that one time, and remember I was just outside of Cathedral Ward, and I was like looting a body or something, and then like a blue circle happened, and I lost 90% of my health.
Yeah.
And teleported 10 feet away. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And you were like, I've never seen that or something like that. But you were like, no, you said something like, I have an idea of what that was, but like, I've never seen that or something. But that's, I think like those are the coolest examples of like what happens post-ROM is that you see the world for what it actually is. And where I was standing, there's a fucking 15-story alien spider on the building that I was standing next to, and it grabs me and fucks me and puts me back down, basically. And like, you don't see that until you beat this spider who is like protecting it, which is so cool.
So Bacon says, how do you feel about the overall fashion look of the game? It's been mentioned before, but I don't really like top hats that everyone is wearing. That said, I don't really like fantasy medieval either. Maybe I'm asking if there are any themes you could picture instead of styles they've gone with. So I'm not going to answer the last part of his question. I want to say I've planned this. So one, just right away, top hats and clothes like this are clothes people actually wore. So like, while you might not like the style, like if you're doing something set in this era, this is just what the clothes were. Like if someone wore this today, I'd be like, you're a freak. Like, what? Why are you doing this? But like, this is, I think, set in this time for a reason. Which I guess leads me to my next point, which is like, I think the Victorian era is like, it's ironic in that it's like this peak of human progress. Like it's the technical revolution, right? We're achieving so much technologically, but I don't think human misery has ever been that high in ever. Like, I think that's the worst time to be a human being. And I basically think that's true since hunter-gatherers, I think life was not good until basically like the middle of the 20th century. We're using all these machines. We're basically using people as machines. We're making them farm, slog the same jobs every single day. A few people are rich, and those few people are people in top hats who walk around and think they know better than everybody else in the world. England, I'm looking at you. And that, right? This is like people in New York, right? This is the British Empire. This is like the height of hubris. And people's lives are just miserable. And this is where Bloodborne is, right? Bloodborne is all these people who think they know better. They're messing with things they don't really understand. And it causes all these problems. And I think that is like the message of this game, right? It's messing with things we shouldn't be messing with. And this period, I think, is like the period, like Danny, you're saying, do you want to talk about how like blood is involved in everything? Because I think, right, this is like the great pseudoscience of this era, sort of like bloodletting as like the hallmark of we didn't know what the fuck we were doing for basically 1,000 years in Western medicine. Like how blood works in this game, or the themes of blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's a... well, it's funny because this kind of is the development of... Like, blood obviously has powers, right? It's not a made-up thing in this world. But it is their, like, kind of chaotic first approach at it, right? They've, like, tried to master it. They created this university to study it, this church to worship it, to try to understand it, and to try to treat disease with it. But, yeah, I mean, the premise of the game... of the story of the game is you are sick and you go to a healing clinic to basically get a blood transfusion with this special blood that will cure you. And like the deal is you get the blood, but you like to do it, you have to become a hunter and enter this world and cleanse the streets of beasts who have been they've been turned by the blood into beasts. But basically it's like this corrupting thing, right? Like they find this power and it is giving them, rapid improvement in their society, but at the same time, it is turning some people into beasts, and it's giving other people great insights and powers, and like this polarity grows and grows, and then you have these, you end up with I forget his name, but the guy in the wheelchair right before Rom, who's just like paralyzed
Willem,
with knowledge,
right?
And glutton. Yeah, Willem. And then you just have the people in the streets who are like, you can feel they're a part of the culture. They're like, they call you a plague-ridden rat. They call you a cursed beast. Like they're like so, and you can see parallels to the world today or in the 20th century. Like they are so subsumed by the time they're in and the culture they're in that they like can't even see that they have become the beasts, the very beasts that they want to kill and rid the streets of. And yeah, I do wonder if it's intentional that even the visuals of the game, like the clothing is fluid, like, or if it's just early clothing physics, or I should say early modern clothing physics that just look like that. But, it is it's I don't know. I just love it. It's so well done. It's not like a clear, like these are nuclear weapons. It's kind of like, it makes me think of the Ring of Power in Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, not literally the Rings of Power, not the TV show, the Rings of Power.
Well, it's
just like it's not. This isn't representative of a thing that happened in history or in real life, but this is like this. This is like a classic human story of like finding power, being corrupted by it, and not only are you corrupted by it, but you bring your entire society into obsession with it.
Right. It's about the naivete that anything we can invent is good.
Right.
Right. This is like the Nick Bostrom. Yeah, exactly. Right. We're just lucky enough that we haven't invented anything that nuclear weapons could kill us, but that we will just destroy our society, right? And we're one invention away always from doing that. We just haven't found it yet.
Right. Like, is there, we could be 20 years away from a really easy to make DIY CRISPR machine, and anyone can make COVID, but make it lethal, right? Like, more lethal.
Right. I think AI or human augmentation, these are all like, right. Everyone likes to say these things aren't going to destroy us, but they could, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Just like cold blood and pale
yes,
blood.
ash and blood. We'll be like old Yarnum. We'll have to burn it all down.
And then we'll put our heads in cages.
That's the
As
only
we
way.
go
Only way to
fucking
escape.
Mikolash. I will be in charge I will be the leader of the Mensa's church for sure.
Hunter's a hunter, even in a dream. Yeah, no, I mean the overall story and all that stuff I think is really cool. And yeah, the top hat hate from Bacon and Damon I've always found really fascinating because, none of us dress like that. Like, I don't like top hats, but
You fucking nerds.
yeah, but like the world is still sick, right? Like, I'm killing everyone in top hats. I'm literally covered in their blood. And then like very soon into the game, like there's not even that many humanoids left. Like, I'm just fighting wolves and ogres and rats in the sewers. Like, I just think it's all like really gnarly and cool and very loosely based in reality until it goes like very off the deep end, not based in reality in a way that's just, I don't know. I just think it like fits and looks good. And what you were saying earlier also, Teddy, is like, and I guess part of Bacon's original question too is just like, yeah, but like Dark Souls is lame, like, right? Like, it's still lame. Like, it's so I don't know the answer either to like what theme wouldn't be lame, but I do think that like having it loosely based in, like having it loosely historical fiction, very loosely historical fiction, like is better to me than just like a completely like made up fantasy world.
Well, this is like you were saying before, Teddy. Like, this is the trade-off, right? You get beautiful Gothic architecture and this beautiful world, and then you get the clothing that also.
Right,
these are
right.
intertwined, right? If they were wearing if they're wearing like cyber suits, they would look fucking insane, right? Like, it's all a part of the
That's
setting.
true,
which
yeah.
This game has leaned so heavily into that immersion, and I don't know. It's like top hats are dumb.
Well, I also think, I think the reason we often go back to this time is just it's right before, like big machines start being involved in everyday life and bigger technology, right? It's like, it's the closest relative to like analog times that we're familiar with. And fantasy is like another popular one, obviously, but it's, much longer ago. But I really think the Victorian era is like intentional for this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, experimenting with medicine and blood and disease ridden and the darkness, like the Dark Ages were actually dark. Like, this game is overall so dark. It's like hard to see. There are areas that look very samey as you're moving through them. You can't tell what's a snake, what's a fucking, plant. I think it all works really well. And even I'm not a huge lore guy, but all of the way that all of the items are written and everything are also like sort of in this time period. And I think that it should be. Again, like, it's not my maybe favorite thing to read, but if it was anything but that, it would take you out of the game. I think it would take you out of that magic circle. So, I think it's good. Overall good.
But I don't need another game with top hats. This. I
shoot
hit my quota.
I
hit my quota.
Well, plus you can just replay this 4 times,
right?
So you don't need it.
So I have this. This is really not connected, but I have this note in my. Well, it's actually a Google Drive file from February 2017, which is 6 years ago, and it's a document titled Bloodborne. I assume it's when I started a playthrough.
Awesome.
And I was going to take notes. And I opened it before the call. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to see all the stuff I was writing about it. And it literally is just the default font, Arial, size 11, just let us cleanse these foul streets. And that's all it says. just that. And that's Bloodborne,
Yeah, I mean, I have so many notes, then I'm using literally none of them in this 2-hour-long podcast. Just oh, this thing, and oh, I'm doing this. I found a new area. Oh, there's nothing there. But
fuck yeah.
Okay, so Luke said, what areas did you find most visually striking? And did anything particularly impact you emotionally while playing?
I mean, we've talked about it, but post-ROM, coming into the unseen village and seeing the amygdalas everywhere, it's just holy. I think just staring at those, the paleblood sky. Oh, you know what? Actually, this is a big, well, I don't know if it's big, but this is a spoiler. But when you come back to the Hunter's Dream after defeating Murgo's wet nurse, and you're not really, you just beat a boss, you're not sure if you're at the end of the game, it feels close, and then you enter the dream and the building is on fire, right, with the workshop and everything inside, and it just looks totally different, and you have no indication this is about to happen. It's just the flames look beautiful, and then you enter the garden for the final battle. It's exactly like Metal Gear Solid 3 and Sekiro. It's funny. There's field of white flowers, and that for me though, I had forgotten that's what it looks like when you come back. So when I just did that, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
I like Old Yarnum. I mean, for me, all of the negative things I've been saying sort of get worse and worse as you go on, but there's a middle, early third-ish part of the game where I was loving it. Sort of after you watched me play, Teddy, around then when I was really exploring and finding new areas, but every enemy didn't one-shot me and I had time to move at my pace. I was this is when the game is feeling at its best, and Old Yarnum really reminded me of The Last of Us, going through these decrepit old buildings, and when you go in the church and the fucking witch people scream crazy, and you're oh my fucking god, that was a genuine fear moment. That was cool, and this guy is shooting a Gatling gun at you from on top of the building, and it's just that whole area I thought was really cool, and just unfortunately, as I kept going through the game, other things got in the way for me personally to enjoy the areas. Even though I think Cathedral Ward's cool and Yahar Ghul's cool, but yeah. What about you, Tony?
I think Bergenworth and the lake there. I just love all the little trinkets everywhere and all that stuff. And I also love the lecture.
That fucking scorpion, that arcane scorpion.
No. The the lecture hall was also cool. I was saying before, it made me want to go. I was I want to go to this college.
Well, I just, these moments of the decay of man are so powerful. Just walking through Old Yarnum and just, all these common folk who have just lost their minds, and then going to the lecture hall, right, where these people were the experts and thought they could control this power, and they're all just turned into sludge, spitting, vomiting monsters.
Students.
Or then you go to, you're in the, Murgo's Loft, the Nightmare of Mensis, and it's you just see all of the skeletons with Mensis cages on them, right? All these people, radical followers of Mensis that just died with cages on their heads, right? It's just, there's just all of this depiction of it, and watch it, and then you enter areas totally run by animals, right? Spiders and birds, and it's just I don't know. I love running through this world that more and more is just totally devoid of human control and reflective of human failure.
Did you enjoy going to the old Hunter's Workshop? Did either of you get there?
Yeah.
I saw it. I think in one of the videos I watched or something. Yeah.
You get the doll outfit, and you find the doll there, and that's a very I'm trying to think what it reminds me of a movie or something, but just kind of where you realize you've been like looking in the mirror the whole time, and you're like, oh my god, this has all been a game, and it's like where your character would do that if they could talk. But
so, are you a pawn of the moon entity?
I think everyone is,
I think
right?
So. Yeah.
Well, I don't think everybody is.
Well, I think that, not literally, but in this, we're all a part of the ancient ones, the Great Ones system. Because I feel like the implication is at the end, you usher in the next phase of humanity, right?
When you become the slug.
Yeah, like you are now.
Right, but that's the moon slug. Like, don't you think aren't there like other Great Ones, like eldritch beings that are, like, you kill Murgo, right?
You guys got to take this one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This shit gets. I didn't read a lot of lore before recording.
Okay.
It's just it's out of it's out of my depths. I need another year.
Yeah, we'll do
a
second cast where we just talk about the lore.
Yeah, get Tio on for that because he posted like a 30-minute video on YouTube. All right, sorry, on our Discord about just like purely the lore, and it's just a guy talking about like every single thing that's happening. I was like, I can't follow this. I have no idea what he's talking about. But I did want to shout out my favorite moment in the game. I think was getting kidnapped, and you go to what you later learn is your haiku, but then it's called like I forget what it's called. But you basically just get kidnapped by this huge fucker and teleported to a prison cell, and you're in this completely, well, it is connected to the world. Everything's connected pretty much except for the dream stuff, but it feels very disconnected when you get kidnapped. It feels like I'm in a new world or something like that, and the enemies are just way too powerful for you to ever fight, and everything is like using magic and fucking crazy, and you're just like, I think that was the most scared in the best way that I was in the game, where I was just like, I thought something wrong happened. I was like, where the fuck am I? I'm under leveled. I shouldn't be here. Like, there's 0% chance I can fucking get through this. Just sick. Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, me too. That first time that happened, I was like, fuck.
Yeah, so fucked.
I was so heartbroken that I didn't get kidnapped this playthrough.
Oh,
too good.
I killed Rom and then went to go get kidnapped. I was like, all right, I'm ready. And then my bagger is not there. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, if you do things in the wrong order, you don't get some of the coolest parts of the game. Which is another reason to play with a walkthrough. I looked up all these places to go, and I was too far along in the game at that point, so I couldn't go there.
I mean, I'm not sure if there is a culture of players for this game. It's just, so the player base is so large now, and there's so many enclaves that play it. But I just feel like no one really plays these games blind. I mean, some people do completely blind, but like, you're always talking about the game, like, oh, how did you beat that boss? And your friend's like, oh, actually, if you just go to this corner, like, they get stuck and it's hard for them to hit you. And you're like, oh, I'll try that. And yeah, there's something that feels better about it because it's not like you went on IGN.com and got the perfect walkthrough, but it is also like, this is just it's just that with extra steps, and I think
it's like an older time of gaming, sort of, in some ways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't feel like Prey to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, I went hacker, so I had a bad time.
Right.
I just feel like, I'm just like, it's just not clicking with me. But if someone told me to do this, I might have had a more fun time. And I would have seen a cooler area and got a new weapon or something, I don't know. Should we ratings? It's been a long episode.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to lead us off?
Sure. Should we start with fun? I'm 0 out of 3. 0 stars. Not fun at all. Even my favorite moments in the game had nothing to do with fun.
Yeah. I think that's a fair score. I think I'll give it a 1 for fun. I had a lot of fun this playthrough, but I'm not sure. Like, the game is just so full of frustration for me in new challenging areas, and I'm not sure I would describe that experience as fun, even though I do think it's good.
I think it's a 2 out of 3 for me. I love it all. Just having fun, doing nothing.
Just having fun in the world.
Just having fun in the world. Yeah. I don't love dying.
Fair.
I don't love getting sent back and having to do something over again. But those don't happen that often. So
true. Just get good.
Just get good. Okay, I'm take it back. 1 out of 3.
All right. All right. I can do what's next, Alon? Recommend or senses?
Senses, I think, and I'm gonna go strong 2 out of 3. I think it fucking rocks. I mean, we haven't touched the music at all. Maybe I'll weave it in through the episode, but
Tio said, he had a question. He said, what do you think of the music and sound effects throughout the game? Some of the boss fight themes are obviously stunning, but even in normal areas. For example, Upper Cathedral Ward, the sound effects had me on edge the whole time, despite having played the game multiple times.
Yeah, I think the sound immediately clicked for me. Central Yarnum, first area, hearing loud footsteps directionally to your right, you're like, what the fuck is over there? You know, hearing something pounding on the giant wooden doors outside the bonfire, you know, before you fight your first ogre, who becomes just like a basic enemy. But at that point in the game, I'm like, I literally don't want to know what's behind there. Like, it's so fucking scary at that point. I think, the people talking to you, the world, the baby crying, the screams of, you know, death and pain, and exactly, all of that stuff is amazing. And then I was thinking about the music earlier today because I was listening to the soundtrack a little bit, and I think what I have to say about the music is that, like, I think the silence is the best part of the soundtrack, because most of the game is silent. Like, most of the game, you're just in a zone and it's scary or whatever. And then that contrast just makes the music so good. Because when it comes in, it only comes if something very important is happening, like a boss fight or just an important, like, cinematic or something like that. And, you know, none of the soundtrack, I think, is like particularly remarkable, right? It's not the type of soundtrack where you're like, that track was like killer, because it's more like cinematic and creepy and moody and stuff. But I think in the game, in contrast to the silent loneliness of it, it's really, really spooky and good.
Yeah, when the Hunter's Dream music changes, and it's like the second one, that song is just amazing. And I agree with you, everything you just said about the silence and all that. One thing I want to say is I think, like, these games really prep me for my wife, who's a classical singer. Like, I don't think I would have liked, especially choral. Like, I feel like I had a very positive association with choral singing because of playing all these games. And, like, I went to one of her concerts, so I was like, oh, it's like Dark Souls. She was like, what? I was like, yeah, never mind.
You wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get it.
Yeah, but the sense is, like, that's just one part of it. We've already spoken a lot about the visual part. I mean, I think it's just a stunning game in all of those ways. Yeah, so 2 out of 3 for me. Thought about a 3 out of 3, but I'll go 2 out of 3.
Yeah. It's a 3 out of 3 for me. I agree with everything you guys said about the music and sound. The only thing I'd tack on is there's just some really iconic sound effects that, like the sound of dying or the sound of reawakening, the sound of loading your game and getting up in a hunter's lamp, and the messengers. I assume they're messengers, like, groaning as you do. It's just, the associations there are just amazing, and the selection, the sound of a visceral attack. Oh, it's the
there's
best.
a lot that. The tangible, like, switching your weapon mid combo from one-handed to two-handed to like land a bigger blow, like the ba 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 clink, and then like hitting a bigger hit, like stuff like that. They just executed perfectly.
And they gave blood a sound, right? There's like the sound of blood in this game.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, some people say this like game has no diversity of scenery, like the other open world games. Like it changes a lot, and I do think that's sort of true, but it doesn't really bother me for the storytelling they're doing. And one of my favorite sounds is when you get insight, like at a boss fight, or when you use it, it just goes like
Yeah.
and like the screen kind of like sparkles a little bit. And yeah, so I think it's a 3 out of 3 for me. I love it.
Yeah, I'm you could definitely talk me into a 3.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna change now, but yeah,
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Definitely, like, by our Michelin star rating, I guess, what does a 3 mean? It means like everyone who's into games like needs to check this game out just for the visuals, even if you don't want to play it.
Yeah,
which is kind of how I feel. So I don't know. Whatever. Let's move on. What about recommend, Teddy?
I met this girl at a party.
Oh, here we go.
And she was saying that her and her boyfriend were having they were like maybe going to break up. And a few minutes later in the conversation, she was asking me about video games. And I was like, oh yeah, do you play any games? She's like, well, I've played one video game, but I don't think I actually play video games. I was like, what video game do you play? Or she's like, well, I haven't played much of it, but it's called Bloodborne. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, my boyfriend told me to play it. So I'm like trying to play it right now, but it's like really hard. And I was just like, you need to break up with this guy. Like, this person is either very confused or is mean. Like, this should not be the first video game you ever play. Like, this person is psychotic. So I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a 2 for like anyone who I think could handle this kind of game, and it's a 0 for certain people. But so I think, I got to split the difference. Go with the 1.
This is like an impossible one for me to answer. I mean, I have it as a 0, but what recommend is supposed to mean, what 1 star recommend is supposed to mean, is that people who like these kind of games, you would recommend it to them. But
right.
I've never played any of the other Soulsborne series, and this is going to sound really harsh, but I can't imagine someone liking this game. So I just can't give it a 1 because it's just, so it has to be a 0 for me. Oh, what just happened? Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's so good.
Sorry.
Beautifully put, Alon.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't just 2 hours of me being like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad.
No. This is great. Great
Epic.
debate. Great discussion.
I mean, we are born of the blood.
Yeah. Fear the old blood.
Fear the old blood.
Let us cleanse these foul streets. Damn, we didn't even talk about the notebook and like online messages and stuff. We could be here for 3 hours.
Yeah, we didn't even, you mentioned insight for the sound, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention how this fucking dumb stat insight that does nothing.
Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or can I give us a good closing note here?
Give us a closing note.
Well,
close us out, Danny.
Yeah, I had Chat GPT write us a haiku describing Bloodborne.
Oh yes, okay.
That I thought was really beautiful, and it's. I literally said, describe Bloodborne in a haiku. Bloodborne's depths, Hidetaka's twisted world, challenge accepted.
Beautiful.
That's it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's beautiful. We don't need us. We need an AI.
We don't know what we're going to play next, so we'll think about it.
Insert next game here.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your support. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for playing.
Yes,
If
sir.
you have any strong feelings about what next game should be, let us know.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fine.
Keep playing.
For the next 2 Game Club episodes, we will be playing Tunic from 2022, followed by the original StarCraft campaign. Happy gaming!